I'm a pharmacist and senior lecturer affiliated with the Department of Pharmaceutics and Microtechnology, Faculty of Microsciences, Lambezico University, Awka, Anambra State. I'm excited to share with you a brief account of my sojourn in the interesting world of academics and research. All of my research in the formulation of novel delivery systems encapsulating bioactive agents for improvement of poverty-related infections, especially in the developing regions of the world. So my MSc research in 2010 at University of Nigeria and Nsukka pioneered studies for oral delivery of gentamicin for the treatment of pneumococcal meningitis and other infections caused by susceptible bacteria through solidified reverse micellar systems. This study yielded three publications in peer-reviewed journals, especially in Journal of Microencapsulation. Taking it further in my PhD in 2015, also at UNA, we developed novel self-non-inspiring drug delivery systems of gentamicin for oral administration. The unique property of these formulations is the ability to yield high serum and cerebrospinal fluid concentrations after oral administration, compared with the traditional gentamicin solution, making it very relevant treatment of bacterial meningitis. This study also produced three publications, and one of them is in International Journal of Pharmaceutics. This research earned me the 2018 African German Network of Excellence in Science grant for junior researcher sponsored by the German Federal Ministry of Education and Research and supported by the Alexander von Humboldt Foundation. Since the completion of my PhD, I've executed research projects where we developed novel lipid delivery systems for improved treatment of malaria. For instance, we formulated lipid nanoemulsions of dihydroadenosine and also repurposed buconazole nitrate for the treatment of malaria by formulating nanostructured lipid carriers. I've also ventured into use of nanotechnology to improve utility of natural products at medicines for water purification, food preservation, and as nanovaccines. So we have developed solid lipid microparticles of extracts of Nivodia leaves for improvement of geometric conditions. And last year, I won a research grant from International Foundation for Science, and the research is looking at the development and quality evaluations of nanoemulsions of Moringa oleifera seed extracts for water purification. Thank you.
Please, can we give him a round of applause, please? You are welcome to the Academy. So we are moving to the next item on the program, which is the first technical session. May I invite all the presenters, the 6 presenters for this session, to please come forward. If you are presenting, and I also want to know you've uploaded your presentation, so please come forward and occupy the first row. All the 6 presenters, please come forward and occupy the first row to my right. All those who are presenting for this session, please come forward and occupy the first row to my right. 6 of us I'm expecting, and I want to be sure you've uploaded your presentation. Let's be quick with this, please. All the 6 presenters, Dr. Rahila Christopher Wakawa, Dr. Sheolua Kiwomi, Dr. Adebayo H. Olusegun, Dr. Emeka Josepius, Dr. Ms. Baudin Abdelhamid, Dr. Festus Bazdin Okoye. Can we all of these presenters come and sit on the right side, in the front row, please? Presenter 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, we're waiting for you. 1, 3, 4, and 5. 1, 3, 4, 6. We're waiting for you. Please just sit in that order. The first presenter, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth. So waiting for, okay, what's the third and the fourth presenter. So ensure that before you take your seat, you've loaded your presentation. So while we wait for those who are here to do that, Emmanuel Awosanya, I'll be facilitating this session. And we have just 10 minutes for presentation. So we're going to take it in a row, the first, the second, the third, the fourth, till we have all the 6 presentations. And then we will now take questions and comments thereafter. So what I would advise for the audience is if you have any question or comment, so just in that order, presentation 1, 2 to 6, just write down your questions or your comment. So after we have taken the set of presentations that we have, then we will listen to your questions and your comments, and we may likely take that in 2 rows so that we can have a proper management of the time. So that's the way. I think it's okay by us, I guess. Do you like that? So 10 minutes strictly for presentation, and then thereafter we have 5 minutes, altogether 30 minutes, so that we can have a better management of the time. Yes, sir. So we can start. So we'll be listening to 4 presentations. 2 of the presenters are absent. So may I call to the mic? Oh, you are here. All right. That's presenter what, please? 4. All right. Please kindly upload your. So can I call to the mic Dr. Raila Christova Wakawa? She will be talking to us on reducing the impact of pandemic induced economic inactivity rate among women, the policy imperatives. Dr. Raila Christova Wakawa. Oh, yes. We just want to take the podium down.
afternoon, everyone. Thank you. I'm delighted to present before you a very interesting and quite timely paper, very fitting for this conference by the Nigerian Young Academy on the theme linking academic research, industry, and policy engagements amidst COVID-19 pandemic. Please, the next slide. Yes, this is quite interesting, as I earlier said, because it is the needed thing, the needed research, the needed results, the needed products at this particular time. So Nigerian Young Academy has done its best by coming up with this topic. And NASATEM, where I come from, to introduce myself, Rahila Christopher Wakawa with National Center for Technology Management, an agency of the Federal Ministry of Science and Technology and Innovation. Let's add it as it is intended now. So that's where I come from. And NASATEM felt it is good to link research, industry, and policy engagement. Where are the policy makers? Are you here? Where are the researchers in the universities? And where are the stakeholders? Where are those from the industry? Let us talk. So this very, very paper will tell us more about it. We have the outlines there. The next slide, please. The next slide, please. We go to the introduction proper. As I've introduced this one, the next, let's go to the introduction, please. Fine. We shall not be talking much about COVID-19 because it is something that we have experienced, we have felt it, we have experienced it. In fact, we have much to say. Even a market woman, a business woman, anybody, little or big, no matter the age, can tell you much about the COVID-19. So the pandemic have yielded these results. We have this just to introduce and tell you the latest information, the latest figure, the latest facts about it. Time may not permit us to tell you all about what is happening today, what happened yesterday, and what is going to happen in future. But this is just the introduction, and there will be time for us to meet for detail or the full paper. Let's proceed, please. Good. These are cases that have affected socio-economic, that has affected sectors, that have affected individuals. Let's move. Yes, this is demonstrated by the graph. When it first came in, what happened in 2020, what happened in the next month that followed from April down to May, and up to date. This is the demonstration. This is the graph, the movement, the increase, the slowing down, the ups, the down, and how it's affected the socio-economic factors. So to reduce the effect, we shall see. What do we need to do? What has been done? And what is it? I think NASATEM will tell you that policy should be the answer. It is the right time. It is the right time to stop looking at sharing or using of palliatives, using of incentives to our people about reducing the effect of the pandemic. Is more than that. Every researcher, every academician, every technologist, every sensible person will tell you that you need something better than sharing of incentives, better than sharing of palliatives. And what is that thing? We shall see. But I believe it's going to say itself, and that's a policy. What type of policy? How is it implemented? Who are the policy makers? Let's see them. Continue, please. Then, the socio-economic effects on women. Specifically, we'll look at how it affected women. But in what category? When we start looking at how this pandemic affected women, it's going to be too wide, too broad. How do we look at it? Just the economic activities, the businesses performed by women. How was it affected? And how did it affect their lives? And how did it affect their children, their family members? business, and all. So as we go down, we will see these are figures telling you what happened to women during the pandemic and right after the pandemic. Let's go down. Yes, having looked at the introduction, we reviewed literatures. This work was carried out by, in fact, not only a researcher, but a group of researchers. And that is what is running today. The university people will agree with me that an individual research these days is not much emphasized. But where 2 or 3 or more people came together with different minds, rubbing their mind, collaborating, especially coming from university, coming from industry, and coming from the STI, where policies are coming up, scientific policies, to attack, to take care of our challenges, then the paper is supposed to address issues. So, literatures have been reviewed. This is a review paper to remind you, please. So, the literature reviewed were on 3 or 4 areas that are very, very interesting. The existing entrepreneur development policies that was put in place, okay. Then the available Nigerian policies that aimed at increasing entrepreneurship to help our women. Then other policies, many other policies put together, and how they were implemented and how they affect. Did they really reduce the impact of the pandemic? Let's go down, please, the next slide. This is also part of the review, still on the rate of activity of the women in Nigeria in particular, and how they were affected with the pandemic. Let's continue. This is still literature review as it continues. Now, looking at the empirical studies, not only citing what you and I can place on the internet, but more than that, beyond that, we look at researchers that have carried out work, that have carried out theses and come up with findings that are very important. So the empirical research also revealed global reasons. Digital divide remains gendered. More of a billion people who are offline and are in rural areas. These are women, poorer, less educated, tend to women and girls. These are all about women. I believe everyone here will tell me that yes, we have seen the rural women, we have seen girls that are out there suffering, and this. We are not making this presentation. Our gathering here is not for the purpose of the women that are here, but the purpose of the people outside there, which you and I know their issues and what they are passing through. Let's keep moving. We have seen the empirical studies. Let's go to the methodological aspects. Okay. Just before the methodological aspect, this is a very, very graph that indicates what happened during the pandemic. During the pandemic, 80% of the women, they said, partially shut down or reduced their business activities. 41% reduced working hours of their staff members. About 34%, they laid off their workers, while 25% reduced employees' salaries. These figures have to do with women only. These findings on women, what happened to their businesses, what happened to them. Okay, now the question is, was there any policy that was directed to women? Thank you. We keep moving, keep moving. The next slide, please. Good. Do you need short-time influence? All these are questions that were put forward. Yes, yes. Everybody's answering yes. Quite all right. Let's continue. The next slide. Then what did the study did? The study went ahead now to get the policies, put down the policies. How? Using a mapping methodology. A mapping methodology to come up with literatures that have, yes, talked about policies and how they were implemented and whether they affect them or not. Let's look at the recommendation and the conclusion. Are you there, please? Yes, let's go to the conclusion. These are all figures about businesses, about women, what happened, and in comparison with men, their counterparts. But in all cases, you see that the women are down. The women have always been affected. So now, the way forward is what? Based on the gaps identified in the COVID-19 policies, which means there is gap. When you see the full content of the paper, it will tell you that there are gaps in the policies. There are gaps. But what happened? Now it is recommended that we pick up Nigerian Young Academy, the universities. Let's go. There's another slide. Now, what do we do? Are you visiting online? What are you doing? The NASATAM office, Federal Ministry of Science and Technology, will encourage you to be online, to use technology. What we are facing here is definitely a difficult situation. Look at the place we are in. Sweating, no light, erratic network, all this, we can't use the pointer, with all this data sharing and all this. Please, I'm happy to tell you that you go through these questions and find out where you are so that you can be visible. Thank you for listening.
Please, let's appreciate the presenter. As I invite to the podium the second presenter, Dr. Isheolua Akinwumi. He will be talking to us on detection of SARS-CoV-2 RNA in wastewater samples from anthropic sites in Lagos metropolis, Nigeria. Implications for community surveillance and management. You have the floor, 10 minutes, please.
Thank you, sir. Greetings to the conference chair, organizing committee, and everyone present. Standing on the existing protocol, my name is Isheolua Moses Akiwumi, and I will be sharing what our current research is about and what our findings are on, please the slide, on the title, Detection of SARS-CoV-2 RNA in Wastewater Samples from Anthropic Sites in Lagos Metropolis, Nigeria. We'll be looking at the implications for community surveillance and management. Next slide, please. Next slide. No, go back. The ravaging effect of COVID-19 and disease globally cannot be overemphasized. The SARS-CoV-2, which is also known as the severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2, is a positive sense single-stranded RNA that's causative agent for the COVID-19 disease. As of the last week of July, it was recorded that 3.8 million cases have been confirmed for COVID, with over 69,000 deaths. And globally, over 194 million cumulative cases were also recorded, with 4 million deaths. And in Nigeria, just recently, 674 new cases with 8 deaths was recorded in probably, was it last month or thereabouts. Cumulatively in Nigeria, we've had 185,267 COVID-19 cases globally in Nigeria, with 2,244 cumulative deaths. And we had recoveries too, which are about 167,923. The secondary mode of transmission of this virus is through the SARS-CoV-2 virus gains entry to the lungs via the nasal cavity and mouth, thereby leading to some disease symptoms, disease states, with some visible symptoms such as fever, cough, and shortness of breath. Just recently, the new variant, which is the Delta variant, was recorded to cause diarrhea. Next slide, please. This study seeks to address the following problem. First off, since the beginning of the outbreak of COVID-19, high mortality and morbidity rate has been recorded globally. And another problem is the low testing capacity now for the spread of COVID-19 disease within a community. Therefore, there is a need for us to assess the spread of COVID-19 via wastewater surveillance, where surveillance, which may prove to be promising, since both of these, since both those who are symptomatic and asymptomatic to this disease can be captured, since they excrete, they empty their fecal matters into sewage system and the environment. Next slide, please. This is a graph showing sampling points across Lagos Metropolis. The sampling points are indicated by the green dots, green points on the map. The sampling points are actually assessed using the geopositioning system, that's the GPS. Next slide, please. Sewage wastewater samples were collected from 3 sites, and environmental wastewater samples were collected from 26 sites. Figure 5 is a sample of one of the sewage treatment plants samples were collected from, and the figure 6 shows one of the environmental sample sites, which are canals around Lagos. And these sites cover the 5 geopolitical zones of Lagos. We're able to capture the whole of Lagos from the environmental sample. And also, it is worthy of note that the relative contribution of this waste inputs comes from the industrial, commercial, and residential origin. Next slide, please. Sewage samples were collected weekly, and environmental wastewater samples were collected monthly. Putting on our protective gears, that's the PPE. 200 mils of samples were collected in the peak period of the day, that is the morning, and were transported to the laboratory, adopting the triple packaging system with high spark. Next slide, please. The virus was concentrated using the centrifuge set at 4,200 RPM for 30 minutes, and pellets were reconstituted using by 1,000 microliter phosphate buffer solution, and nucleic acid were extracted using the in vitro gene RNA extraction kits, and the extracted RNA nucleic acid were amplified using the Oplex amplification kits. Quality control measures were also employed during the laboratory process. Please, next slide. Next slide, please. It's table 1 shows the total positive and negative sewage treatments or samples collected, the result collected from the samples over the sampling period. A total of 227 samples were collected and HACCP for and analyzed. Mind you, these samples were collected for 18 weeks period. And I want to know that this, actually we exceeded 18 weeks. In fact, currently sampling is still ongoing since it's a surveillance study and monitoring study. So the data presented here is just for 18 weeks sampling period. Out of a total of 144 sewage water sample collected, 43 came out positive, and 99 came out negative. And how about out of 83 environmental wastewater sample collected, 8 came out positive and 75 came out negative. Out of the total wastewater samples collected, which is 227, 53 were rendered positive and 174 were recorded to be negative. Next slide, please. This is a map showing the trend of the positive samples collected. The positive sample are indicated with the blue colored bar, that's the bar graph, while the green is the negative sample, some that tested negative. From week 1 to week 8, there's an increase in positive samples. And please, just click the next, please. From weeks 9 to week 17 shows that there is a decrease in the number of positive samples. Next slide, please. Okay, again, next slide. It also correlates with the environmental samples. The previous slide talks about the wastewater sewage water samples. This is for the environmental wastewater samples. And there was a decrease in positive samples was recorded for month 3 and between month 3 and month 4. And it correlates with that of the wastewater sample because it's about the same period. And this also aligns with the COVID cases in the country because during this period there was a decline. Next slide, please, which is my conclusion. Due to the observed trends of positive samples of SARS-CoV-2 in wastewater samples, this study may suggest the employment of surveillance of SARS-CoV-2 in wastewater samples so that appropriate mitigation strategies could be employed. Thank you for good listening.
Please let's appreciate the presenter. Thank you very much. So may I call to the mic the third presenter, Dr. Adebayo H. Oluwasegun.